In this video, I'm going to demonstrate some of the common errors that are made when publishing web pages. So the first common error that is made, it would be to use CyberDuck's suggestion. So CyberDuck doesn't make a good suggestion. So if you go and you say, okay, open URL, you get a page that said that page does not exist. The URL that they suggest is incorrect. So let me show you a few things that are incorrect about it. Number one, it starts with HTTPS, and we're working with HTTP, not HTTPS. Number two, it puts home in the directory. If you look at CyberDuck, you see home there. That is where the base folder for your account is, but it's not part of your URL, because the host name will get you all the way into public HTML. There's no tilde, and public HTML is included in the file. So there are many things that are wrong with the URL that comes out of CyberDuck. So never, never, never let CyberDuck tell you what the URL is, because it's very wrong. Several things wrong with it. Okay. Another common error is to send in the local file name. So you've got the web page open, everything looks great, everything's showing. We go ahead and capture the URL and send that in. This will not mean anything to anybody. If I'm on a different machine, if I put this in my local machine, it'll work just fine. So you can test it and it will show up. But if I'm on any other machine, this will not work. And you can tell you're in the local one because it starts with something unfamiliar, right? It gets Drive. It doesn't have Icarus in it anywhere. So common error number two, to turn in the local URL. So to avoid that one. A third one is to publish something outside of public HTML. So if I back up, here I have a folder called Resources, and it's next to public HTML rather than inside. And if I double click on this, I don't have any folder called Resources here. So if I try to get to this file, right, I do the best that I can, and I type in icarus.weber.cs.weber.edu tilde my username, and I type in resources /sunflower.html, which is there, right? Inside resources is sunflower.html. And I push enter, it doesn't show up. It says it is not found. So this is another problem. And the reason it is not found is because it is outside the public HTML folder. So I need to move this so that it's inside the public HTML folder. And now notice, if I go outside the public HTML, there's no other files. If I double click and go inside, there's that resources folder. Now I can type icarus.cs.weber.edu /tilde username /resources sunflower.html, and it works. All right, so error number three, to be outside the public HTML folder. Error number four is a capitalization error. So let me show you this resizing file. This is resizing.html inside resources, so I've added the URL correctly. So everything's fine in the URL and showing. But now I'm missing an image in this one. And it was working just fine. Here's my resizing in images on my local file. So my local file was just fine, and it's the same one that's in the resources folder. But when I upload it, it's not working, and it's not there. The problem here is capitalization. So if I look at that particular image in my code, I see that it's lower calf trail 4, all lowercase in my code. If I look at the image on my local machine, it has a capital L, a capital C, and a capital trail. So the capitalization doesn't match on my local machine, and still it shows up correctly on my local machine. And that is because if I'm using Mac or Windows, their file names are case insensitive. Like they don't care whether it's upper or lowercase or if it matches or not. Lowercase and uppercase file names to them are exactly the same. But when we go to the server is a Linux machine. And Linux machines are case sensitive. So their file names are case sensitive. So it sees this as something very different. Because on the machine, it's lower calf trail with caps, and the code is saying lower calf trail with lowercase letters. And because it's case sensitive, it is not the same. So what I need to do to fix that is to make them match. So I can either change the image file to be all lowercase, or I can change my code to be uppercase. And I'm going to change the image file. So I'm simply going to right click and rename it to lowercase l, lowercase c, lowercase t, and save it and refresh. And there's the lowercase. Now I've changed it locally. This doesn't fix it yet, because even though I've made the change local, I've got to upload that file to the server. I've got to make the change. See, it's still uppercase in the server. So I can rename it here or re-upload it. So I can just go in and rename it, lowercase, lowercase c, and lowercase t. And now it's been renamed on the server. And if I refresh it, now it matches. Now the best way to solve this problem is to follow the style rule that says use all lowercase. So don't ever worry about using uppercase. You'll never have that conflict. If all your file names and all your folder names are all lowercase, you won't ever have this problem. The last error that I'm going to demonstrate is, and this is common and throws people off, is just typing in icarus.cs.weber.edu and then tilde and your username, and then pushing enter. And you think this should work because you have an account and it says forbidden. So all of a sudden you get concerned that your account might not be working. It's okay, your account is working fine. You just haven't completed it. You have to, this gets you into public HTML, but you haven't identified any file there to open, and there is no default. If there were a default file, this would be enough. But since there's not a default file, you have to actually put the name of the file as part of the URL. Okay, those are the 5 most common errors when you're publishing web pages.